Howdy all. I'm gonna palpate the bones of the wrist and hand on the skeleton. Okay. So coming down the shafts of the radius and ulna, we have the radial styloid and the ulnar styloid. I'm on the right side of the upper extremity, so the right upper extremity. If we cross the radiocarpal joint, here's the carpal bones. There's 8 of them. We have the proximal row of carpals, which is the scaphoid, lunate, triquetrum. The pisiform sits on the triquetrum. And then the distal row, we have the trapezium, trapezoid, capitate, and hamate. Okay? So 2 rows of carpals. Proximal again, scaphoid, lunate, triquetrum, pisiform. Distal row, starting at the thumb side, trapezium, trapezoid, capitate, hamate. The hamate has this little hook that's just distal to the pisiform. Okay? Little hook right here. Now, distal to the carpals, we have the 5 metacarpals, 1 through 5. The pinky or hypothenar side of the hand is number 5. The thenar or thumb side of the hand is number 1. We have the metacarpal heads, which articulate with the proximal phalanges of digits 1 through 5. And then distal to the proximal phalanges, thumb has a distal phalange. Digits 2 through 5 have distal phalanges, but they have an additional middle phalange. So proximal phalange, middle phalange, distal phalange. Okay, those are the bones. Now going back to the joints that move anatomically, we have the radiocarpal joint. That would be the proximal row of carpals, articulating with the radius, 2 degrees of freedom, inflection and extension. And we can put our axis, this is sagittal plane. The intercarpal joints, they are diarthrodial, but they're planar. They slide and glide. And then we have the carpo-metacarpal joints, which are also planar joints, 5, 4, 3, 2. But the carpo-metacarpal joint of the thumb, the carpo-metacarpal joint of the thumb is a saddle. It has 2 degrees of freedom. It moves, I'll have to show you with my hand, okay? Well, let me do a right hand. It moves in flexion and extension. That's happening at that carpo-metacarpal joint, that sagittal plane, medial lateral axis. And then flexion, extension, flexion, extension. And you can see the thumb is turned to meet the digits. The thumb does not sit in the same plane as the digits, so it moves differently. It moves across the palm when you make a grasp. Okay? Flexion and extension of digits 2 through 5 still occur in the sagittal plane, but the thumb, because it's rotated 45 degrees so that you can do opposition and reposition, flexion, extension of all joints, carpo-metacarpal, MCP, and IP occur in the frontal plane with a front to back axis. Okay? We don't have to worry about the carpometacarpal joints of digits 2 through 5. They're planar. They do not move anatomically. And then the next joints we need to worry about are the metacarpal phalangeal. So each metacarpal head articulates with a proximal phalange. Metacarpal head, proximal phalange. Metacarpal head, proximal phalange. Digit 3, digit 2, and even in the thumb, metacarpal head articulates with proximal phalange. Those are your metacarpal phalangeal joints. Now, digits 2 through 5, flex, extend, abduct away from the middle digit, adduct toward, add, and the middle digit abducts to the right and to the left, similar to the foot. The MCP at the thumb simply flexes and extends. Again, not in the sagittal plane, in the frontal plane, because the thumb is turned to meet the other digits. And then we have the proximal and distal interphalangeal joints. Proximal, distal. Digits 2 through 5 have a proximal and distal interphalangeal joint. Proximal is proximal phalange with middle phalange, 1 degree of freedom, flexion, extension. Distal interphalangeal is middle with distal phalange, again 1 degree of freedom, flexion, extension. The IP joint of the thumb, proximal with distal phalange, still 1 degree of freedom, but in that frontal plane with that AP axis. Okay, bones of the hand, carpals, 8 of them, metacarpals, phalange, joints, radiocarpal, carpometacarpal of digit 1, metacarpal phalangeal of all 5 digits, and then your interphalangeal joints of the adjacent phalanges. See if you can't do that.